Welcome to On Call with Dr. Jason Golbin. I am so lucky and honored today to be sitting with the Chief Medical Officer at St. Catherine of Siena Hospital, Dr. Joshua Bozek. Josh, welcome.
Thanks
so
for having
nice
me.
to see you. Josh and I know each other for many, many years, and that'll come out as we talk today. But the first question I have for you is what got you into administration? You're an emergency room doctor for so many years now. You're coming up on your first year as the chief medical officer at St. Catherine's. What prompted you to make the move from clinical medicine into really administrative healthcare?
Sure, great question. So again, appreciate you bringing me on the show and to share my story. So it's actually started at St. Catherine's back in January of 2013. I was recruited to come to St. Catherine's from another hospital. And at that time, they really wanted me to come because, they felt as though I could bring a lot in terms of clinical medicine. But in addition to that, they gave me my very first administrative role. So my first real administrative role began at St. Catherine's, which is now where I am the chief medical officer. And I remember coming in and it was given a role to be the director of quality in the emergency department.
In the ED. Wait, was that Dr. O who gave you that
Yes,
job?
it was.
I love it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
all things full circle. Okay.
That's right. So from that point on, I had several other administrative roles that just kind of like kept pushing along, and eventually got into the position where I was a regional medical director. And since I had that role and really became strong in the administrative world per se, when the position became available, I decided to apply, and I was lucky to get the spot.
We're lucky to have you. I've watched your growth over the years. Your whole career, and we'll talk about that in a second. But especially at St. Catherine's, as you've grown administratively and really matured into the ability to manage the building. What's it like being the CMO? Is it fun? I don't know. That's the word I would always choose for CMO.
It's challenging, that's for sure. I go about my business in a way that people know I'm there for business, but at the same time, I'm very cordial with everybody. I get along with most people. I'd like to think I get along with every person, but I know that's always not the way. So it is fun. There's a part of it that makes you go back. I really enjoy my job every day, going back to the office and figuring out all the different nuances of the hospital, trying to troubleshoot the different problems that we have. And I have a lot of great people that I have around me. So it's been a great adventure so far.
It's different problems than being an ED doctor, right? I remember when I made that transition from clinical medicine to administrative medicine, and in many ways, and you tell me if I'm right. I mean, you were an emergency room doctor for how many years? Not that you're not still an emergency room doctor. How many years were you practicing clinically?
So I was practicing about 13 years.
13 years. I mean, so the medicine itself gets not easy, but 99 times out of 100, you know exactly how to handle the patient. I found when I became the CMO that it was wonderful new slate of challenges to learn, to approach and manage. Are you finding the same thing?
I am. So I tell a lot of people is I went from managing patients, and now I have new patients. My new patients are the doctors, right? It's the clinicians that I work with every day, and they come with their own set of challenges, just like a patient does. Patient comes and they have chest pain, shortness of breath, abdominal pain. The physicians come with other complaints. I need help with getting something done in the emergency department, something done in the operating room, and so you just have to kind of look at it from a different perspective.
I love that. I agree 1,000,000%. And actually, I found it. Just like you, I kind of found it fun. I still find it fun, and you want to get out of bed because today we're going to tackle X, Y, and Z, and we're going to make a difference. The other impact I found as a chief medical officer is you don't just impact that one patient in front of you. You're now moving the whole building.
That is very true.
It's a lot of weight on the shoulders in many ways.
Right. I was actually just at an event last night, and I was talking to some colleagues about it, and they asked me about how is the new role going and how was I transitioning. And I said, it is definitely different. I went from managing one department to 21 departments is the way to really look at it. Yeah. And not only am I just taking care of the ER patients, but I'm taking care of all patients. So I have to make sure that all of the patients are provided high quality care, safe care. So it's not just the small niche per se of the emergency department patients, but it's every person that walks in the door.
I'm chuckling, magic to my ears. All right, so we've talked about this a little, but tell me how you got your start in medicine. Why emergency medicine? Give me a flavor of that that route?
So, growing up, I was always an empathetic child. I would describe it as, which is, when I saw somebody hurting or somebody needed help, I was always the first person to kind of reach in and help. And so I always knew I wanted to go into something about helping people. And when I was in high school, I decided, I would begin my career as a nurse's assistant, and I took a course in BOCES to do that.
This is up. You grew up upstate?
I grew up in central New York,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
somewhere between Rochester and Syracuse in a town called Auburn. And then my first year of high school, I took a job as a nurse's assistant. And I decided I liked it enough that I would become a nurse. So I worked hard. I went to college and I worked, as a nurse's assistant for about 4 or 5 years. Became a licensed practical nurse, then a registered nurse. Was working in med surg my first year.
Wow.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. And so I decided I would go to the ICU. So I became an ICU nurse, and that year I was teaching residents and interns how to become doctors. And I said, you know what? I could probably do this myself. So I decided to go back to school and get another degree. And that was the most challenging part of my career in life, which was I was working full time and I was going to full-time
Oh, you were
school
full
full-time.
time working as a nurse
I
and going to
was.
school?
So I worked every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Wow.
12-hour shifts
Where'd you
for
study?
4 years.
Yeah.
I studied on Monday,
So-
Wednesday, Friday,
Yeah,
for
that's-
class,
Ah.
and Tuesdays were lab days.
Oh
And so
my
I would
God.
just study at the end of the day. And so that was very challenging because, you obviously have to do well to get into medical school. So then I was accepted into medical school. And then the rest really was history from there. But
Oh, wait, before you go on. So I remember in my medical school class, I had two nurses, and they knew so much more than all of the class because they had had the experience with pharmacology and physiology. Even though it's not a physician's expertise, the difference between myself as a student versus the active practicing nurse were light years. Did you find that in medical school too?
yeah, there's two separate parts to that. So the first part is the science is the science. Everybody has to, study that, digest that, and that's the part that is still very, very difficult.
Yes.
The part that came very natural to me was the clinical
Clinical,
part because I was
yes.
actually involved in the clinical part, and that was the part that I clearly excelled compared to a lot of my, other counterparts in medical school. And that was the part that I really enjoyed the most. It was my third and fourth year of med school, those clerkships, because, I was able to go in and put in IVs and teach the other, students how to do that.
Huh?
They're like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? How do you know how to
That
put
was
an
me.
NG tube in and put in a Foley? And when we're all like struggling over how to do it.
Yeah.
And I had the expertise, years of doing it. And again, I started when I was 16 years old in a nursing home.
That's amazing.
And the other part of that is medicine, as you know, particularly clinical, is almost like another language. So I already spoke the language.
Spoke the language.
So
Yes.
it's like if you speak Spanish fluently because you speak Spanish in your household, and then you go to another country where they speak Spanish, you're ahead.
You're light years ahead.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it just made sense to me, and it definitely helped.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I just want to also grab something else. We've never had this part of the discussion, but the fact that as the ICU nurse, you were teaching the residents and the interns and the students really how to be ICU doctors, how to care for patients who are critically ill. I think that is so accurate and true. They teach you, and you know this, it probably comes more innately to you, take care of your nurse and they will show you the way, right?
That's right.
In the ICU, as an ICU doc, I believe that those ICU nurses are some of the best nurses in any hospital, wherever you are. And I was lucky to have followed that advice, gotten that advice early, and followed that advice. And nurses have shown me so much. I to this day, I go to the bedside and say, "What do you think?" And before I render a judgment or thought, I want to hear what that nurse who's been at the bedside for 12 hours, what because they usually know the answer.
They usually do. So that's the key to what you just described, which is, physicians, we go from patient to patient to patient. We'll have a census of 12, 15, 20 plus patients. A nurse, ICU, 2 to 3 patients.
Yep.
Floor nurse, 6 to 7 patients. And they're with those patients all day long, seeing every little thing. So, to not take their, advice and heed what they are seeing would be foolish. I think that they're, a critical part of how a hospital goes round. In fact, I think they are the heart of the hospital.
They are, absolutely.
So I really think that part of my career made a huge difference in the way I can care for patients.
All right. So you did. How come not? You didn't want to be in a. An
Great
ICU
question as
doctor,
well.
best specialty in the world.
That's right. So I was definitely going to be an internal medicine pulmonary.
That's it.
doctor.
What's better than pulmonary? I'm a little
And-
biased though.
And in fact, I applied to 10 internal medicine spots, got 10 interviews, and at the last minute, I was like, boy, do I really want to work 7 days a week, every week, in the office?
Minimum 6 years training. Yeah.
But I love being a
Yeah.
nurse. I love shift work. I love doing procedures. And so I kept thinking back to when I had my emergency medicine rotations, and I was like, boy, that's almost like being a critical care nurse, because you come in, you do your shift work, you see these patients, you get to do crazy, procedures.
yeah.
And so at the very last minute, I put in a new application for emergency medicine, and I applied to one spot.
Oh, that's crazy.
And they were done giving interviews.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, they were done. They were on to their last interview.
Wait, tell everybody what that spot was.
Good
Yeah,
Samaritan.
of course. It was Good Samaritan.
Right.
Why you had rotated
Well,
there?
I had rotated there.
Okay.
And so I had called up and I said, is there any chance that there's any open rotation or any interviews open? And they said, well, next week someone canceled. So how'd you like to come
I didn't
in
know
and
that
interview?
either. Wow.
So I went in and I had a great interview with all the people that I had worked with. And they all knew I was a nurse before in the ICU. They knew I was clinically sound, and they were all pushing for me. So I was lucky to get that
Holy
spot.
moly, that's an awesome story.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed my time at Good Samaritan Hospital. It's a great place to train. It's a great hospital. It's a fabulous
Great
place.
Sam, we like to call it.
Great Sam.
Now I'm going to jump in again. This is my favorite Dr. Bozek story of all stories. When I was a young attending, just out in practice, my partners had kept me for the first few months at another hospital. And finally, they let me into Good Sam, and I said, okay, I feel at home. Really, from day one. I'd been a medical student there in 1999. Code goes off. My first day, it was a Monday, code goes off overhead in the ICU, and I was the ICU doctor. So, great, let me go see what's going on, see if they need my help. And I walk in. I remember it's this thing. It was the first room, bed one, whatever that first bed is called. And there's a code going on, and that code is being run so perfectly. I mean, pristinely. Somebody's clearly in charge. Somebody's giving medication. Somebody's doing compressions, and it was orderly and intelligent, and the way that a code should be run. And often codes are chaotic. And I said to the nurse, "Oh, okay, this is going well." I said, "Who's running the code?" He said, "Oh, that guy is." I said, "Who's that guy?" He said, "Oh, he's the ED intern." And I just kind of shook my head. I said, "The ED intern, okay." And I just watched it because no help was needed. And after the code was over, I grabbed that ED intern. Of course, was Josh Bozek. And I said, "Who are you?" And the rest is history. And from day one, you've had that calming, competent manner about you that you see it even in your chief medical work.
Thank you.
I love that story.
That was a great story. I still remember that story too, because I remember when you walked in, and because I had spent some time at Good Samaritan Hospital as a student before I was a resident, I had known a lot of the physicians. And I remember when you had walked in, and you're like, "Hey, do you need any help?" And I was like, "No, I'm good. I got it." Not knowing who you were.
Yeah.
And so I came out afterwards, and we were having the conversation. You said, "I don't understand it." They told me you're an intern.
Yeah.
And he said that you ran it like a third year
senior resident.
resident. And I said, "Well, I appreciated that." And then we shared the story about how I was an ICU nurse before, and I was on the code team for many years. And we've had a great relationship ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you did residency at Good Sam. Where'd you go after that?
So my first year after I finished, I spent some time at Good Sam. I did a little time in the pediatric emergency department, a little bit in the adult, but my full-time job was over at
Another hospital.
Another hospital.
The
Exactly.
competition. Okay.
But the beauty of that is it gave me an opportunity to kind of get away from where you're a resident. And, as much as I think that it's great when people stay in tertiary care centers, they're academic, they want to teach, there is something to be said about going to a place and becoming your own physician versus hey, you're still a resident, you're PGY 27.
Yes.
So what happened was very shortly after that, I got a call from St. Catherine. There was a doctor there, Dr. Kwaja, who was one of my mentors, and he said, "I'd love to have you come at St. Catherine." I said, "Let me try it out," and I started there per diem. And then shortly after that, they wanted me to come full time, and that's when Dr. O'Shaughnessy came to me and said, "Hey, we got to have you. We love you having you here." I was there for about 6 months, and he said, "We want you on board. We want you to be our director of quality in the emergency department." And and I took that position.
Awesome. So I'm going to give you my Josh Bozek story number 2. So you started January 2013. I came on as the CMO at St. Catherine's in September of 2013. I remember day one. I'm just kind of taking a tour. I've never really been in the building, taking a tour through the building, and in the ED, and who's sitting at the station. I said, Bozek, what are you doing here? I work here. I run quality in the ED. I said, oh my God. I remember walking out with that then new president who started the same day as me, and I said, oh, okay, all right, at least we're in good shape here,
That's right. We kind of migrated through the
that's
same
exactly
places
right. That's
is
exactly
what's happened. So it's been a great road.
Agree. So, as you think about your administrative career, what advice do you give to a young, a young resident, a young doc growing up in the health system? How do you guide them between clinical, between administrative? What direction do you give them there?
So the first thing I tell them is whether or not it's particularly medical students or people that are pre-med is you have to love what you do. If you're not in it because you want to take care of people, then you are not going to be a happy physician, because it's not about that. It's really about how can I give high quality care, safe care, the best care to my patient every time. And so that's number one. The second thing is when you want to get into, especially as you become an attending, any administration center, it's patience. And I'm not talking about patients, the ones we take care of. I'm talking about patients like you need to put some time into this, not having snap judgments, taking your time and making sure that you're making the right decisions each time. As an emergency medicine physician, that's very difficult for me. We're fast paced. We want to make a decision now. Where's that patient going? What's my next procedure? What's the next lab I want to order? You got to sit back for a minute, take in the information, talk to your friends, talk to your mentors, and make sure that you're making the best solid decision that you can make. There are times where they have to have some quick decisions, and we can do that. But I always say, sit back, have that patience, make sure you get the research done to answer that question.
I agree. One of my mentors called it administrative patience. And I was told the same thing when I started by Dr. O. He said, almost never the patient is dying immediately, like you would see in the ED or I would see in the ICU. Almost always in our roles now we have a chance to at least step back, weigh all sides of the coin and make the correct judgment. So that's interesting. So now if you apply that to your job as a CMO, what does your day look like all day? What are you busy doing as the chief medical officer of a hospital?
It is a busy day. I start the day usually around 7 o'clock in the morning. There's usually some huddles that happen. We have some early meetings. We start with safety huddles in the hospital over at St. Catherine's. We do ours at 8:30. And so that's a great opportunity for us to meet with all of our directors and get a flavor for what the day is going to bring. What happened overnight? Was there any true emergencies? Is the building doing well? And as we go through that, you kind of know, all right, where am I going to position my troops? And that's a great start to the day. After that, I do try to build in some open hours twice during the day for physicians and clinicians, nurses, whoever wants to come in and talk to me. I have an open door policy. Although sometimes I may be in a meeting, worst case scenario, you get on the queue and I'll get you in. That, I think, is incredibly important to becoming a successful chief medical officer. In fact, my staff love the fact that they can come to me at any time. I'm almost always available. And if you can't get me right away, you can get me by text, you can get me by phone, etc. That leads us right up until our noon time, where we have a system call. As you know, we do quality rounds, make sure that all the buildings are doing well when it comes to quality and safety.
Have you found those as the new CMO? Just for the audience, we at 12 noon every day we get each chief medical and chief nursing officer from each of our 6 acute care hospitals on a call, and we share everything qualitatively and from the safety point of view, and we learn from each other, and we vet things that go well. We share things that we vet things that go poorly. We share things that go well, and we really learn from each other. Have you found that helpful?
Yeah, that collaboration has been unbelievable. It's a great opportunity for me as a newer CMO to get together with what I would describe as the older CMOs. The
more senior.
Right.
Yeah.
Seasoned
I don't know about
CMOs,
older.
But I do bounce a lot of things off of them. Either in that meeting or other, and just having that ability each and every day to reach out to each other and say, hey, what's going on in your building? This happened over here. Has that ever happened to you before? Makes a huge difference. And then we also have our senior leadership, such as yourself, there, so we can escalate things to you and get your advice as well. So very, very important.
When we built that, we actually were just talking about, we built that in December of 2022. So we're coming up on, two and a half years.
And because of that, we were able to
Yeah.
be awarded most recently with a Patient Experience Award.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Oh, we've had a great track record. We're near zero. Your shop, especially Leapfrog A, just tremendous success. But it's built on what I found when I was the campus CMO, and I don't know if you found this too. The first time I went to the daily patient safety huddle, that 8:30 huddle in the building, it was eye opening for me. We may know what goes on medically, but that's it. The CMO tradition is in that medical clinical box. Once you hear about everything else going on, environmental services and transport and supply chain. So I mean,
Right.
it's fascinating, and it helps us do our job better by having that kind of situational awareness. You finding the same thing?
Yeah, I do. A perfect example is, today is knowing what the staffing levels are in each one of the departments.
It's a
So,
huge one.
when I know that we're going to be like a little shorter staffed in one department versus another, then you can help allocate, resources one way or another. Or you may have issues where an example might come up where, physical therapy might be a little bit shorter today than usual. And somebody's calling me and saying, hey, listen, I really need PT to get there to see my patient. And I can let them know, I'm going to do the best I can. Here's the situation for the day. But it level sets with everybody so that they know, oh, okay, you know what? They may be short, or there might be a resource or something like that that needs to be fixed in the meantime, but we're going to get there with them. But if I had not had that information in the morning, you start making phone calls and you can be an hour behind before you know it. So
That's
it
right.
saves a lot of time.
And it controls expectations. This way, everybody, for our patients as well, we want them to understand the ebbs and flows of the hospital, and to understand what their stay will be like. What's today going to look like? What's tomorrow going to look like? And when can we expect to get you out of here? I know you spend a lot of time on length of stay as well, right?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in length of stay. In fact, we started off with our length of stay journey.
Capacity management is
Yeah,
our new term, right? Because that's
absolutely.
really, we have this much capacity. We have to manage our flow of our patients through that.
Yeah, it gave us an opportunity to kind of revamp and look at all the different processes, the inefficiencies, how we can improve things. We made a lot of great adjustments in the last few months, and we're now doing very well. Very happy to say that we're exceeding our goal at this time.
And the other thing that patients never like is waiting in the emergency room. Okay, you come in, ED doctor figures out what's wrong, and now, okay, you have to come in. You need to stay for those couple of days. You need antibiotics. You need an intervention, what have you. How do you work on what we call door to floor, right? We actually, you tell me, but we time the time when you hit the door to when you hit the floor, and we think that's a really important metric. You want to talk about that a
Yeah,
little?
so first and foremost with patients, you have to manage expectations. And I think the most important thing you can do is communicate, communicate, and communicate. And if you let them know that there's going to be delays to the floor, delays to CAT scan, delays to other things, it gives them a little sense of, less anxiety because they know where they're at within that process. So that's step one. There is always going to be surges in an emergency department in a hospital setting. There's certain times of the year that are slower, at certain times that are faster. So again, managing expectations and discussing with patients. But what we do is we do manage and look at all those times and how we can try to make sure we get patients up to the floor faster. So when patients aren't getting home quickly, patients will then stay down in the emergency department longer. So the key is making sure that we do manage that throughput really, really well, and everything else will kind of flow through. In addition to that, working with hospital administration to make sure that we have the right units open, and that's things like opening up observation units, ancillary areas, and there's a lot of logistics that goes into that, but staffing and other. But trying to make sure that you manage surge and manage surge well will make a big difference moving forward. And we've been able to do that. There are going to be times, like I said, where you have surge and patients, 40 patients all show up all at the same time, and you're used to seeing 10 during that period of time. Patients are going to feel a little bit. But if you let them know, we're having a surge at this time, we're going to get to you, make sure that their pain is under control, make sure that the families understand, then that usually helps quite a bit.
So now, CMO, ED doctor, these are stressful jobs. But yet, you have a nice head of hair, you look really calm. What do you do in your spare time? What's your calming mechanism?
So my passion outside of medicine is playing golf. I really enjoy that. I've been playing golf since I was a teenager, And short of a slow period of time when I was in med school, I've played for a long time. And
You picked
really,
it up
really
as a
enjoyed that.
teenager, upstate.
I did. When I was
Who
very
introduced
young.
you?
Actually, one of my buddies down the street, he had a old set of clubs, and we used to hit the golf ball back and forth in his backyard, back and forth, back and forth, and then eventually got to learn how to hit longer shots, and then was able to go to a golf course. Was very lucky because where I was a student, we had a very, very cheap student discount, and I played golf all summer for about $150.
Oh, wow.
And the only time I couldn't play was on the weekends. And
I don't think it costs that on Long Island.
no, it's probably more like $150 a round now.
Exactly.
And that really is what got me into that. And it's a great way to just go and not just have a good time, get some fresh air, sit with your thoughts, but it's a great time to play with other people that like to play golf. It's an opportunity to network as well. So that's one of my great passions in life. And the other thing I like to do is I'm a very handy person, and I love to do some woodworking. So I'll build different things like bookcases and
Really?
and oh yeah, all kinds of
You
stuff.
you go to IKEA and you put it together, or you actually build it
No.
from scratch?
I actually, there's a lumber yard down south that I go to, and I'll pick up oak and pine and a bunch of other different types of wood, and I'll actually build it from scratch.
Get out of here.
Yep.
Can you build this? I can't even put in a light bulb. Oh, that's awesome. And then do you paint it? And
It depends. A lot of stuff I like to leave natural because I'm using hardwoods, so I'll leave it natural. So I'll make you something one of these days.
oh, you have to. That's awesome. Do you teach? You have 2 kids?
I do. I have 2 daughters.
2 girls, right? Have you taught them golf?
I have an indoor simulator, and so they will oftentimes go down there and we'll try to hit some
Oh,
balls
hit together. That's
So,
awesome.
my oldest likes to go out and play like a Top Golf, but they've not been to a golf course yet.
Oh, it's a great school. You got to get them going. A college scholarship.
That's right.
And we can't not talk about your wife. You have an amazing wife who I've had the privilege of working with for years. She was a good Sam ICU nurse. Where'd you meet her, and what does she take of this whole movement in your career?
She's been a great partner. She has been very supportive since day one. We met in upstate New York many years ago, and she was getting her bachelor's degree in nursing. We started working at the same hospital together, and we started dating. And then, we stayed together right through med school. We got married before I started med school, and then we had our first baby when I was in residency. And she's been unbelievably supportive. I told her when I took this role in particular, I was like, I probably won't see you for a year because I do.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. But I put my heart and soul in everything that I do. So the key for me always is that I like to make sure that I do a job very well because this is the product that I put out. So if I have to stay until 7 or 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, I will. And she's supportive of that. So she's been a great partner.
So just so you know, that putting your heart and soul into everything, that shines through about you. And I remember having the conversation with Dr. O about you taking this role. And that's exactly what I said. I said, he will not stop until he is successful in this job. We are so lucky to have you within Catholic Health at St. Catherine's as our Chief Medical Officer. And it is so great to have you join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do for Catholic Health and all of our patients.
And thanks for the opportunity and great things to come.
Yes, sir. Awesome.
Thank you.